Welcome to Context Window, your weekly look at the bleeding edge of AI coding tools. Let's see what's new. The widely accepted wisdom for years was that the AI coding market would inevitably consolidate, a winner-take-all scenario where developers would ultimately standardize on one monolithic platform. But recent reporting shows that ground-level developers are actively rejecting that future, instead organically building what's now being called an accidental stack.
That's right. They're layering tools like Cursor for orchestration, Claude Code for reasoning in the terminal, and OpenAI's Codex as a specialized execution engine. It's a fundamental pivot away from vendor lock-in that's catching many enterprise strategists completely off guard.
And it's not just a theoretical shift. This week has brought some remarkably chaotic developments reflecting this very trend. It's time to get caught up with the AI tooling radar.
Kicking things off with a major slip-up from Anthropic. On April 1st, they inadvertently leaked approximately 512,000 lines of unobfuscated TypeScript source code for Claude Code. This happened because a debugging.map file was mistakenly published to NPM during a routine release.
And what did independent developers find once they got their hands on that code?
It revealed Claude Code isn't just a simple CLI wrapper. It's a highly sophisticated, multi-agent production system. Code sleuths, as they're being called, uncovered internal systems like Kairos, an always-on background agent, UltraPlan, a deep multi-step planning workflow, and even a Tamagotchi-style pet assistant named Buddy. Anthropic has confirmed no customer data or model weights were exposed, but the cat's out of the bag on their internal architecture.
So even the most advanced AI companies, building autonomous agents to prevent human error, are still entirely vulnerable to a junior developer botching an NPM publish. It's a humbling reminder that the bleeding edge of AI is still built on the fragile foundation of traditional software deployment.
Absolutely. Next up, Cursor shipped version 3 in early April, fundamentally redesigning its IDE around multi-agent orchestration. They've introduced a massive, dedicated agents window where developers can deploy and monitor multiple AI agents simultaneously.
This sounds like a significant shift in how developers interact with AI assistants. What does this enable?
It allows parallel execution workflows. A developer can have one agent refactoring backend logic, another updating CSS, and a third writing tests in a cloud sandbox, all concurrently. Crucially, these agents can continue running in the background even after the developer closes their laptop.
So Cursor is officially abandoning the race to build the smartest AI model. Instead, they're positioning themselves as the ultimate control plane. They don't seem to care which tech giant wins the model war, as long as Cursor owns the dashboard where all those models are put to work.
That's the read. And in a truly surprising move, OpenAI released OpenAI/Codex plugin CC, an official plugin designed specifically to run inside Anthropic's Claude Code terminal.
OpenAI and Anthropic are fierce rivals. Why would OpenAI dedicate resources to make a competitor's product more capable?
It's all about interoperability through the Model Context Protocol. This plugin allows Claude Code to proactively delegate tasks to OpenAI's Codex CLI. Developers can now invoke cross-provider workflows like /Codex adversarial review, where Codex actively challenges Claude's architectural decisions, or /Codex rescue for error recovery.
Two fierce rivals are suddenly interoperable in the same terminal. It suggests OpenAI has realized that if they can't win the terminal interface battle against Anthropic, they'll happily settle for being the underlying utility engine taxing the execution API underneath Anthropic's UI.
Precisely. Moving on, GitHub announced on April 20th that it's pausing new signups for its Copilot Pro and student plans and immediately removing Opus models from standard Pro tiers. This comes alongside a major policy change. As of April 24th, GitHub will begin using user interaction data, prompts, suggestions, etc., to train their AI models by default, requiring an active opt-out.
That's a significant shift. What's driving this?
GitHub explicitly blamed the compute demands of agentic workflows. They noted that long-running, parallelized sessions are consuming far more resources than their current pricing models can support. The data policy change, meanwhile, is triggering a governance wake-up call, especially in regulated industries, as Microsoft looks to build its own proprietary training data pipeline independent of OpenAI.
It sounds like GitHub is facing the harsh economic reality of agentic AI. You simply cannot offer unlimited flat-rate pricing when AI tools evolve from simple autocomplete bots into tireless, compute-hungry virtual employees.
Indeed. Finally, Windsurf, which was acquired by Cognition AI in December 2025, has released some staggering April 2026 metrics. Over 1 million active users, $82 million in ARR, and adoption by 59% of the Fortune 500.
While the tech media obsesses over the rivalry between Cursor and GitHub, Windsurf seems to have quietly eaten the enterprise market. How have they achieved that?
Windsurf differentiated itself by introducing SWE-grep and fast context technologies. These allow it to search massive enterprise monorepos, those with 100,000 plus files, up to 20 times faster than traditional vector embedding searches. Furthermore, its zero data retention privacy default has made it the darling of risk-averse enterprise IT departments.
So Windsurf has succeeded by solving the two most boring yet vital problems in software engineering: search speed and massive legacy code bases, and strict corporate data compliance. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most impactful innovations aren't the flashiest.
Exactly. Now, the discussion turns to this larger trend mentioned earlier, this accidental stack. For the past 3 years, the prevailing thesis in the AI coding market was a singular assumption: consolidation. Venture capitalists and industry analysts largely believed a single platform, likely backed by a hyperscaler like Microsoft or Google, would win out. Developers would standardize, and enterprise procurement would pay a unified per-seat licensing fee.
That was the conventional wisdom, but what's the reality on the ground?
A pivotal April 12th report from the new stack, titled Cursor, Claude Code, and Codex are merging into one AI coding stack nobody planned, shatters that assumption. The reporting reveals that early adopters and forward-thinking engineering teams are actively rejecting vendor lock-in. Instead of standardizing, the developer community is engaging in a massive organic unbundling.
So this isn't just developers tinkering, it's a significant market force.
It is. The AI infrastructure market is experiencing a historic boom, with Gartner projecting global AI spending to reach $2.5 trillion in 2026. Deloitte reports that AI infrastructure budgets are set to triple. Yet this capital isn't flowing into a single funnel. Developers have realized no single model or platform is best at everything. Claude Opus excels at deep, multi-file architectural reasoning, while OpenAI's GPT and Codex are superior for rapid execution and adversarial code review. By forcing these tools to work together, they're achieving what the new stack calls an accidental stack.
It's fascinating how often ground-level developers successfully rebel against the monolithic platforms their CIOs want them to use. Is this accidental stack a permanent shift in software engineering or just a temporary symptom of a rapidly evolving market before the giants catch up?
The evidence suggests it's a deeper trend than temporary. The composability of these tools, enabled by protocols like MCP, provides a level of flexibility that monolithic platforms struggle to match. It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle once developers experience that kind of power and choice. Looking at how this accidental stack actually functions, the modern AI coding workflows has organically fractured into 3 distinct tiers.
How are developers actually working with these disparate tools in concert?
At the top, there is the orchestration layer, which is largely dominated by Cursor v3. Cursor is being stripped of its core reasoning duties and utilized purely as a parallel processing control plane. The IDE is now treated as an agent manager. Developers use Cursor's interface to launch multiple background agents simultaneously, assigning one to write unit tests in a cloud sandbox, while another updates front-end CSS. Cursor's job is no longer to write the code itself, but to monitor, schedule, and merge the parallel workflows of the underlying models.
So Cursor is essentially becoming the Kubernetes of AI agents, managing the distributed workload without necessarily performing the work itself. Is orchestration a defensible moat, or will VS Code eventually copy this UI?
That's a critical question. While the UI can be copied, Cursor's early lead in establishing the workflow and integrating these disparate agents gives it a strong first-mover advantage in defining the orchestration paradigm. Then, at the reasoning and terminal layer, where Anthropic's Claude Code has claimed the terminal environment. Operating as an agentic assistant directly within the developer's shell, Claude Code is tasked with reading files, understanding broader repository context, and planning multi-step architectural changes.
And that's because Anthropic's models are currently benchmarked higher for deep reasoning.
Precisely. Their Opus models, specifically 4.6 and 4.7, are seen as superior for deep reasoning and instruction following, leading developers to trust Claude to act as the senior architect of the stack. Finally, the execution engine, where OpenAI's Codex CLI runtime has been slotted into the bottom of the stack.
This is where that surprising cross-platform plugin comes into play.
Exactly. Through the Model Context Protocol, Claude Code treats Codex as a specialized subagent. When Claude finishes drafting a complex piece of logic, it uses a command like codex-adversarial review to force OpenAI's model to rigorously audit Anthropic's work.
Cross-provider AI code review is fascinating. Developers are now using AI models to double-check the blind spots of competing AI models. Does this solve the hallucination problem, or does it just double the compute cost?
It's likely a bit of both. It adds a layer of redundancy and different perspectives, which can catch errors, but it undoubtedly increases the resource consumption. This MCP, the Model Context Protocol, is the unsung hero, acting as the standardized connective tissue. It allows Claude to natively talk to Codex, or enables Windsurf to pull context directly from Figma, Slack, and PostgreSQL without the developer ever switching tabs.
The most surprising data point in this recent industry reporting remains OpenAI's willingness to build an official plugin for Anthropic's Claude Code. Anthropic is a direct, fierce rival. Why would OpenAI dedicate engineering resources to make their competitor's product more capable?
Analysis suggests this is a calculated Trojan horse strategy by OpenAI. They recognize that Anthropic currently holds the momentum in terminal-based reasoning. Rather than fighting a losing battle to force developers out of Claude Code and into an OpenAI-branded terminal, OpenAI has chosen to commoditize the execution layer.
So by making the Codex runtime available as a composable sub-agent via MCP, what strategic goals is OpenAI achieving?
3 key goals. First, distribution. They instantly expand Codex's reach into Claude Code's rapidly growing user base. Second, validation. They validate the Codex runtime as an essential, composable infrastructure tool rather than a siloed standalone product. And most importantly, monetization. OpenAI runs API revenue or drives ChatGPT subscription retention for every single delegated task, background job, and adversarial review executed underneath the Anthropic UI.
So it's less about conceding the developer interface to Anthropic and more about a genius move to ensure they get paid no matter which tool a developer uses.
That's the perspective. This maneuver highlights a broader shift in OpenAI's business model. They're transitioning from an application company to an infrastructure utility. As noted by AI strategists, platforms that convert user data into training data and maximize compute consumption will dominate the next era. OpenAI simply doesn't care whose logo sits on the user interface, so long as the underlying tokens are being billed to an OpenAI API key.
If AI tools are just going to delegate to each other in the background, how does a developer even track their cloud spend? This sounds like a budgeting nightmare.
It definitely complicates cost attribution, which is a major concern. And while individual developers are thriving in this composable, multi-vendor accidental stack, enterprise IT leaders are facing a significant governance and compliance crisis.
That's the real-world business impact. What does this mean for large organizations?
For the past 2 years, CISOs and procurement teams have been purchasing consolidated licenses, like GitHub Copilot Enterprise. They did this under the promise of simplified billing, unified security perimeters, and streamlined compliance. In regulated industries, finance, healthcare, defense, adherence to frameworks like NIST 853 and FISMA requires that sensitive code never leaves a controlled boundary.
But the accidental stack completely subverts those corporate IT controls.
It does. If a developer is using Cursor to orchestrate a workflow, Claude Code to reason about proprietary architecture, and an OpenAI Codex plugin to execute the code review, enterprise data is suddenly flowing across 3 different vendor boundaries simultaneously. This creates a massive shadow IT footprint. Procurement teams are now forced to conduct multi-vendor security audits and manage fragmented budget approvals just to support a single developer's daily workflow.
This raises a critical question. How long until a major Fortune 500 company suffers a catastrophic IP leak because a developer used an unsanctioned MCP plugin to send proprietary code to a third-party AI reviewer?
That scenario is a very real concern for IT leaders. This tension is currently being exacerbated by GitHub Copilot's controversial data policy update. As of April 24th, GitHub will use Copilot interaction data to train their AI models by default, requiring users to actively navigate to their GitHub settings to opt out.
This isn't just a minor privacy update. It's a strategic milestone for Microsoft to build its own proprietary training data pipeline independent of OpenAI. But for regulated enterprises, a vendor changing its default data posture to opt in for model training is an operational red alert.
Precisely. This policy shift is forcing organizations to re-examine their AI governance posture and actively audit their Copilot license tiers. This governance friction is exactly why alternatives like Windsurf are capturing Fortune 500 market share. Windsurf offers a strict zero data retention policy by default and on-premises deployment options, making it a safe harbor for enterprises terrified of the accidental stack's compliance risks.
So GitHub's aggressive move to harvest interaction data, is that a sign of confidence in their model quality or a sign of desperation as they try to catch up to Anthropic's capabilities?
It's likely both a strategic play to build a robust proprietary data engine and a reaction to the intensely competitive and rapidly evolving landscape where compute and unique data are king. The market has definitely spoken. The anticipated consolidation of the AI coding market is dead. Developers have organically built a composable three-tier stack utilizing Cursor for orchestration, Claude Code for reasoning, and OpenAI's Codex for execution.
OpenAI, despite its rivalry with Anthropic, has adopted a Trojan horse strategy, positioning Codex as an essential, monetized infrastructure utility that underpins other AI tools. This ensures they profit from the proliferation of AI coding, regardless of which UI developers prefer.
And this developer-driven accidental stack, while empowering individual engineers, is creating a significant governance and compliance nightmare for enterprise IT and CISOs, forcing a re-evaluation of vendor strategies and data policies.
As this accidental stack continues to evolve, will enterprise IT be able to effectively rein in shadow AI, or are we witnessing a fundamental, irreversible shift in how software development is governed within large organizations?
That's all for this episode of Context Window. Join us next time for more on the AI tools shaping how we build software. If you're building with AI, subscribe. We cover what matters.
Ship smarter, not harder.